It seems Sony can only do two things consistently: re-release games and rip off gamers. And boy oh boy, they do both so well. Now, remasters can be great. Even the old CEO of Sony said game remasters are extremely important in getting funding for new games. But I think where the train derails is what Sony chooses to remaster and how such remasters are handled. Let's start with that first part, discussing what games they choose to remaster. Did Horizon Zero Dawn truly need to be remastered? Absolutely not. It looked beautiful on PS4 and runs great out of the gate on PS5 at 60 FPS. Yes, the remaster brings it up to Horizon Forbidden West graphics, but is the value there? If you already own the PS4 version, you need to spend $10 to upgrade, and if you don't, it's $50. At least for me, the value proposition is just bad. Not to say other people don't see value in it, they certainly do, because at least for Horizon Zero Dawn there's a noticeable graphical difference, and it includes all DLC, so it could be worse. So, without further ado, let's talk about what's worse. I present to you Days Gone Remastered, where the remaster is more blue. The remaster of Days Gone represents a big issue, and that issue is how Sony chooses to remaster some of its games. When it first came out, Days Gone was a game that was just never on my radar, but leading up to the remaster, I started seeing various footage and scenes from the game, and honestly I was interested in buying it. But beforehand, I saw the comparisons between the remaster and the PS4 version running on PS5. Maybe someone can help me, because I don't see where the upgrade is. There's literally no difference except color, and honestly I prefer the lighting and colors of the original game when looking at these comparisons. To me, there was no way I was paying $50 for this remaster. Instead, I immediately decided that getting the PS4 version and running it on PS5 would make much more sense. I thought my reasoning was sound. There is almost no noticeable difference in graphics or performance, and the original game came out in 2019 and should be cheap by now. Sure, I'm missing out on a new mode and the world looking more blue, but otherwise I'm just not that interested in the remaster. Then of course, the reality sets in for pricing. Sony is releasing a new remaster for $50 and offers a $10 upgrade to the remaster if you already own the PS4 version. That means they're going to charge no less than $40 for that old version, because otherwise people could buy it for cheap on PS4 then upgrade. And don't forget the game's full price on PS4 was originally $60, so a 6-year-old game currently being 30% off makes the overall value even worse. It's the same for other games like Horizon Zero Dawn as well, a game that came out 8 years ago. When it comes to Horizon Zero Dawn, yeah, it's pretty dumb, but at least there's a noticeable upgrade there. But when Sony releases remasters like this, it's a ripoff. Give me a super cheap PS4 version any day, and I'll just run it on PS5. I don't need to, nor want to, ever upgrade to the remastered version. And luckily I can, because I have a disc drive and can find it used, but if you have a digital console, you're out of luck, and it's simply a ripoff. Overall, this is a huge issue with Sony and its remasters right now. If Days Gone was a one-off problem, then that's one thing, but it's not. Sony's premium franchise, The Last of Us, has the same problem. Simple question. Do you want to play The Last of Us Remastered, Last of Us Part 1, Last of Us Part 2, Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, or The Last of Us Complete? There's only 2 unique games here, by the way. Putting this absurdity aside, Part 2 Remastered has the exact same problem as Days Gone. Sony promotes it as a remaster, but once again, where the hell is the difference? And it's not just me. Look up any comparison and read the comments. Listen to tech YouTubers like Digital Foundry, who can barely tell the difference looking at comparison shots. Again, if you're looking at the remaster versus the PS4 version on PS5, you get apparently no differences in visuals or performance. Yes, I know they added some features and a couple new modes, but in what world is it acceptable to call this game a remaster, or charge a $10 upgrade fee or $50? We have seen other game studios and companies offer better PS5 upgrades on their games for free, so what Sony is doing here is just stupid. And to be clear, we've seen what great offerings and value looks like from Sony. Sony Santa Monica released its Valhalla DLC for free, an entire roguelike mode with a compelling story that masterfully connects the current God of War games back to the old ones, for free. By comparison, these remasters they're putting out are simply low effort. Days Gone Remastered is essentially the upgraded PC port from 2021. Last of Us Part 2 Remastered adds almost nothing. Until Dawn, a supposed remake for $70, released with many issues. And it was a game that did not need to be remade, as many believe to this day that the PS4 version is the definitive way to play, mainly because of creative decisions they made on the remake. Even Last of Us Part 1 had its problems. It was definitely marketed as more of a remake and actually adds heavy visual upgrades, but they removed the beloved multiplayer and charged $70 for it. And even though it's a big upgrade, did we really need another remake of a remaster of another game? No, not at all. Other remasters, on the other hand, like the recent Oblivion remaster, puts into perspective of how good a remaster can be. It's remade from the ground up and is either $50 or free on Game Pass, and it gets extra credit because it's an old beloved game that actually could have used a remaster. Oblivion came out in 2006, not 2020, which once again highlights Sony's issue. They keep remastering games that are not that old, and when they do, it'll likely be a bad or underwhelming remaster. Ultimately, the quality control at Sony is bad when it comes to overseeing and approving these remastered games. It's so rare for Sony's remasters or remakes that should be called remasters to be very compelling. At best, it's a remaster for a game that came out only a few years ago and looked great, while at worst, it's like being at the eye doctor trying to figure out the difference between two images. And remember, Sony chose not to greenlight a Days Gone 2, but still wants to release a half-assed remaster of the game for money. And of course, worst of all, there are games that should be remastered, but are not. And what we do get often seems like an utterly complete ripoff. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.